Someone who lives off attention suddenly get ignored. You can see it in their eyes, the panic, the confusion, the desperation. That's what happens when you stop feeding a narcissist the one thing they crave the most: control. See, a narcissist doesn't want you strong. They don't want you focused. They don't want you building something bigger than their ego. They want you spinning emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because the more off balance you are, the easier you are to manipulate. But here's the truth. Strength is silent, power is patient. And when you start walking in that truth, when you stop explaining yourself, when you start reacting to their chaos, when you start moving like someone on a mission, you become a problem they can't solve. That's the Mamba mentality. It's not about revenge. It's about elevation. It's about getting so locked in, so disciplined that the games they play don't even register. You don't need to shout. You don't need to clap back. You just need to level up so high their manipulation can't breathe in your air. This isn't about hate. It's about healing. It's about taking your power back without ever raising your voice. It's about learning the things narcissists can't stand and doing them every damn day until your peace becomes louder than their drama. When you ignore a narcissist's need for attention, you strip them of the very oxygen that fuels their ego. Attention, validation, reaction. These are their lifelines. They're not looking for connection, they're looking for control. And the easiest way to control someone is to get inside their head, to make them respond, react, defend, explain. When you start doing that, when you stop feeding the fire, they start to burn out, and that's where the shift begins. Narcissists thrive in spaces where they're the center of gravity. They build their identity on being admired, feared, envied, or needed. They walk into a room and scan for the supply. Who's paying attention? Who's giving energy? Who's vulnerable enough to pull in? The second you stop giving them that energy, it's like cutting off their spotlight. They hate that silence more than confrontation, because at least when you're angry, emotional, or upset, they still have control. They've still got you locked in. But indifference terrifies them. Indifference means they're losing grip. And narcissists don't fear hate. They fear irrelevance. Kobe Bryant knew how to block out noise. In arenas filled with pressure, doubt, and distractions, he stayed locked in, focused, unshaken. That same mindset applies when dealing with a narcissist. They'll throw everything at you: insults, passive aggression, charm, fake apologies, guilt. But if you don't bite, they lose their power. You become a mirror that reflects nothing back, and that drives them insane. Because to them, no reaction feels like rejection. And rejection cuts deeper than anger ever could. You'll notice how quickly the tone changes when you stop responding. First comes confusion, then comes escalation. They might try harder, be extra nice, overly charming, maybe even play victim. If that doesn't work, they'll flip the script. They'll try to make you feel like you're the cold one, the selfish one, the problem. But every attempt is just noise, just bait. And if you stay silent, if you stay grounded, they start to unravel. Because ignoring a narcissist isn't about being petty. It's about protecting your peace. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, your mental space. Every text you don't respond to, every argument you don't enter, every bait you don't take. It's a quiet revolution. And while it doesn't feel loud, it speaks volumes. It says, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm not available for manipulation. I'm not participating in my own emotional sabotage. That clarity hits different. That silence becomes strength. Kobe wasn't available for nonsense. He wasn't out here trying to please critics or justify his grind. He showed up, did the work, let results speak. That's what ignoring a narcissist looks like. It's not passivity, it's discipline. It's choosing your focus. It's making your growth more important than their gains. And yes, it takes strength, because part of you wants to explain. Part of you wants to defend yourself, but every word you give them is fuel. Every reaction is reinforcement. And when you finally learn to stay still in a storm, they lose their favorite weapon, your attention. Don't mistake silence for weakness. Silence is strategy. It's the move before the win. It's the breath before the breakthrough. When a narcissist can't get a rise out of you, they're forced to sit with themselves. And that's the one person they don't know how to face. That's why they chase reactions. Reactions distract them from their own emptiness. They don't want to look in the mirror, so they make you their mirror. But when that mirror goes still, when it stops reflecting chaos, they're left with their own. That's where the discomfort comes in. That's when the mask starts to crack, because you're no longer playing your role in their story. You're not the fixer, the pleaser, the emotional punching bag. You just steal. And that stillness exposes everything they've been hiding. They start to spiral, not because you attacked them, but because you stopped giving them what they never deserved in the first place. Unearned access to your emotion is not easy. It takes mental toughness. It takes emotional discipline. But that's what greatness demands. Kobe didn't back down because someone doubted him. He didn't shrink because someone tried to throw him off. He used it, transformed it, locked in deeper. And that's what ignoring a narcissist is choosing not to participate in dysfunction. It's understanding that your peace is more powerful than their need for attention. It's playing the long game quietly, relentlessly, until the noise dies and you're still standing, unshaken, unbothered, and unbreakable. Setting boundaries with a narcissist is not just about drawing lines. It's about enforcing them with calm, clear conviction. The moment you start placing limits on what you'll tolerate, you become a threat to their control. Narcissists thrive in chaos, in emotional confusion, in blurred lines where they can slip through cracks in your self-worth. They hate boundaries because boundaries mean rules, and rules mean consequences. And consequences are something they believe they're above. So the second you say this is not okay, and mean it without drama, without rage, without the need to convince them, you take back power they never expected to lose. They want to argue, they want a scene, they want you to explode so they can flip the script and call you the problem. But when you stay calm, when you state your limits without shaking, you rob them of the chaos they feed on. That kind of silence is louder than shouting. It sends a message that you're not asking for respect, you're requiring it. And narcissists can't stand that because they don't negotiate from a place of mutual respect. They negotiate through guilt, through confusion, through manipulation, disguised as care. Boundaries dismantle that entire system. Think about how Kobe Bryant approached the game. His focus wasn't just on scoring, it was on discipline. He knew where his energy went, who got access to his time, and what he would never compromise on. That's how you have to be with narcissists. You can't draw a line in the sand and then keep moving it every time they test it. You can't say, don't talk to me like that, and then engage when they do. You can't set a boundary with your words and betray with your actions, because a narcissist doesn't listen to what you say. They watch what you do. And if your boundary breaks when they push, they'll keep pushing until nothing's left. Enforcing boundaries doesn't require yelling. It requires consistency. It requires doing what you said you would do every time without apology. If you say you're walking away from disrespect, walk away. If you say you're done explaining yourself, stop explaining. If you say certain conversations are off limits, end them when they begin. That's how you retrain your nervous system to stop responding out of fear and start responding from strength. And that's how you make a narcissist uncomfortable, by being unshakable in what you allow. They'll test you. They'll try to wear you down with charm, then guilt, then rage, then silence. They'll cycle through their tactics like a DJ looking for the right track to control your emotions again. But if you stay grounded, if you stay disciplined, they run out of tracks. They run out of power because they can't access you without your permission. And boundaries are you revoking that permission without needing their approval. Kobe didn't play to please, he played to win. And winning in a relationship with a narcissist doesn't mean fixing them. It means freeing yourself. It means realizing you're not responsible for their reactions to your standards. You're not responsible for their disappointment when you stop enabling their behavior. You're not responsible for the way they twist your strength into selfishness. That's just noise. Your responsibility is to protect your peace, your energy, your emotional clarity. That's what boundaries are. They're not walls to keep people out. They're filters to let the right energy in. And you'll know the boundary is working not when they accept it, but when they resist it, when they push harder, when they try to guilt you into softening, when they try to love bomb you back into compliance. That's not a sign to back off. That's a sign you're doing it right. Because discomfort is a narcissist's alarm system. It tells them they're losing control. And if they're uncomfortable, that means you're finally shifting the dynamic. The goal isn't to punish them. The goal is to protect you. That's what Kobe did. He protected his vision, his values, his discipline. He didn't let outside noise redefine who he was or how he moved. That's the mindset you bring when you hold a boundary. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't need to justify your limits to someone who's only looking for cracks. You need to stay focused, stay steady, stay aligned with the version of you that's no longer available for disrespect in any form. Because once you set that tone and stay consistent, everything changes. The dynamic changes. The power shifts. And the narcissist starts to realize they no longer own the space they once controlled. Staying calm when a narcissist tries to trigger you is one of the most powerful moves you can make. They thrive on emotional reactions, on your fire, your anger, your confusion. They're like emotional pickpockets. While you're busy defending yourself or trying to make sense of their chaos, they're stealing your power right out from under you. But when you stay calm, when you refuse to let them pull you into the emotional storm, you take that power back. You become untouchable in a way that drives them crazy, because now their usual tactics stop working. Narcissists are masters at the game. They know exactly what buttons to push and when to push them. They study your patterns, your weaknesses, your triggers. They know how to twist your words, bring up your past, or make subtle digs that don't seem like insults until you're spiraling. And that's where they win, not by being right, but by getting you to break your own peace. They win when you yell, when you cry, when you start defending yourself against things that never made sense to begin with. But when you breathe, when you pause, when you look at them and choose stillness over reaction, it disarms them completely. Kobe Bryant had ice in his veins. He thrived in hostile arenas, under pressure, with crowds screaming at him and opponents trying to shake him. He didn't flinch. He didn't fold. That same energy applies here. Staying calm isn't weakness, it's control. It's mental toughness. And when you bring that into a conversation with the narcissist, you shift the dynamic. You turn their weapon of chaos into a mirror that shows them who they really are. And they hate that. Because narcissists aren't looking to solve anything. They're looking to provoke. When they can't get a rise out of you, they're left with their own insecurity. And that silence starts getting loud. You'll notice how uncomfortable they get when you stop feeding into their games. The smirk fades. The insults get sharper. The manipulation gets more obvious. They'll accuse you of being distant, cold, unemotional. They'll say things just to get a reaction, to see if you still care, if they still have access. But what you're doing is removing the fuel. And without fuel, they can't function. Their identity is built on how much control they can have over others. And calm is the ultimate rejection of that control. This doesn't mean you never feel the emotion. It means you learn to hold it, breathe through it, and respond from clarity instead of chaos. It means you let them say what they want, and instead of reacting, you see it for what it is, a performance. You're not on stage with them anymore. You're in the audience now, watching the show without buying a ticket. And when they realize they're performing for no one, that's when their discomfort begins to grow. Because to them, indifference is worse than confrontation. At least confrontation gives them energy. Indifference takes it away. Kobe didn't get caught up in every foul, every missed call, every insult from the stands. He was too focused on the goal. That's the level of discipline it takes to deal with a narcissist. You can't afford to get pulled into every argument, every false accusation, every twisted narrative. You have to stay locked in. Every time you respond with calm, you train your nervous system to stop giving power to dysfunction. And every time you stay silent in the face of provocation, you reclaim space that used to belong to chaos. It's not easy. They'll push harder. They'll escalate. They'll do everything they can to get you back to that reactive version of yourself. But that's where the growth happens. When you can sit in the fire and not let it burn you. When you can hear the noise and not let it distract you. When you can be triggered and still choose peace. That's when you become dangerous to a narcissist. Because now they can't reach you the way they used to. And that distance is everything. This isn't about pretending to be okay. It's about choosing your power over your pain. It's about letting your calm be the loudest message you send. Narcissists want chaos. They want drama. They want the spotlight. But when you walk away from the stage, when you refuse to play your part, when you keep showing up with composure and clarity, you break the cycle they depend on to survive. And that's where your real strength shows up. Not in how loud you can get, but in how silent you can stay while still standing tall in your truth. Not reacting to a narcissist manipulation or guilt trips is one of the most powerful things you can do to reclaim control over your emotional space. Narcissists are experts at twisting the narrative, turning everything back on you, making you question your own intentions and drowning you in guilt for simply choosing yourself. Their words are carefully chosen to hit where it hurts the most. And they don't fight fair. They fight to confuse, to exhaust. They use guilt not as a genuine reflection of your actions, but as a weapon to keep you trapped in cycles of over-explaining, apologizing, and staying small so they can feel big. They'll say things like, after everything I've done for you, or you used to be different, or I guess I'm just a bad guy now. And those phrases, as subtle or dramatic as they may seem, are designed to make you feel like the one who's being unreasonable. They want you to forget how many times they crossed the line. They want you to forget the gaslighting, the manipulation, the blame shifting. They want to rewrite the story so that they're the victim and you're the villain. And if you're not grounded in truth, it's easy to fall into that trap. So this is where the real test begins. Not just knowing you're being manipulated, but refusing to respond to it, not defending yourself, not justifying your choices, not trying to prove you're a good person to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you. Silence becomes strength, stillness becomes strategy, and emotional detachment becomes freedom. Because the second you stop explaining yourself to someone who only listens to twist your words, you begin to hear your own voice again. Kobe Bryant didn't stop to explain himself every time someone doubted him. He didn't give interviews justifying his grind or validating his choices. He let his work, his actions, and his focus speak for him. That's the energy you need to carry when dealing with a narcissist. No matter how many guilt trips they send your way, you stay locked in. You stay focused on your goals, your healing, your peace, because if they can guilt you into reacting, they can drag you right back into the emotional chaos you fought so hard to escape. And make no mistake, they will test you. The moment they feel they're losing grit, they'll bring out the emotional manipulation playbook. They'll try to make you feel cold, heartless, ungrateful. They'll act like they're the ones in pain and you're the one causing it. But underneath it all, it's just control. It's all about control. And guilt is one of their favorite tools because it doesn't come at you like a weapon. It comes disguised as love, concern, or vulnerability. That's what makes it dangerous. That's why it's so important to not respond. Not reacting doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care more about your well-being than their illusion of who you're supposed to be. It means you recognize that no amount of explaining will change a mind that's already made up. It means you understand that someone who genuinely respects you doesn't manipulate you into guilt. They communicate, they reflect, they grow. Narcissists don't do that. They deflect, they shift blame, and they project their insecurities onto you until you wear them like your own. Your job is to recognize that and reject it. Kobe trained his mind as much as his body. He studied film, learned patterns, anticipated moves. You have to do the same. Learn their patterns. Anticipate the guilt trips. Watch how they switch roles the moment you say no or set a boundary. And instead of reacting, observe. Instead of defending, detach. Instead of explaining, exit the conversation if needed. That kind of control sends a clear message, not just to them, but to yourself, that you're no longer available for manipulation, that your energy is too valuable to waste on proving your intentions to someone committed to misunderstanding them. It's not about winning the argument. It's not about getting them to see your side. It's about understanding that peace is worth more than being right in their eyes. It's about choosing clarity over confusion, power over panic, stillness over struggle. Narcissists hate when you don't respond because your silence shows them the truth, that they no longer have access to the version of you that once needed their approval. A version of you is gone, and what's left is someone stronger, quieter, and wiser. Someone who doesn't explain growth to those committed to staying the same. Someone who no longer lets guilt decide their direction. Someone who is free not just from the narcissist, but from the cycle itself.